Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back on my series on stories from the Puranas. And today we'll be talking about a very interesting story about a great kidnap. And this kidnap was done by the great warrior called Bhishma. And this story is coming from the Puranas, and as we know that the Puranas have been compiled by sage Vedavyasa, who is also a writer of Mahabharata, and this story is actually linked with the Mahabharata as well, and as well it is mentioned in the Puranas. So I thought I'll just bring this story as well, because this is also coming directly from the Puranas, and also I will request to have firm faith and belief in it, because this is not fiction. So this is how the story goes, that King Shantanu, through his wife Satyavati, had two sons, and as we know that Shantanu's other son was Bhishma, and he was through his earlier wife called Ganga. And after Ganga left Shantanu, Shantanu married Satyavati, who had two sons, and he had two sons through Satyavati actually. And Vedavyasa, again, who is the compiler of the Puranas and also a writer of the Mahabharata as well, he was in fact Satyavati's first son. And Satyavati had remarried. Actually, the first marriage was a Gandharva Vivaha, which is not a marriage as per proper rituals. It was an earlier marriage, and we're not going to discuss the story in this video about her earlier marriage. But through the earlier Gandharva Vivaha or marriage, she had gotten a son whose name was Vedavyasa, the great Vedavyasa, the compiler of the Puranas and the writer of Mahabharatas. And through the second wife of Satyavati, she got two sons, because the second marriage of Satyavati was done with King Shantanu, and she had two sons. And Vedavyasa, who was the first son from the earlier Gandharva Vivaha of Satyavati, when he came to know about Satyavati having two sons, he actually accepted them as his two brothers, and he was happy. And of course, he was living in the forest, and Satyavati was living in the palace with her two sons. The first son of Satyavati and King Shantanu, his name was Chitrangada, and he was a very handsome person, and he was a very powerful person. He was built very powerfully. And his second son was called Vichitravirya, and he was also endowed with princely qualities. And King Shantanu and his wife Satyavati were very happy to get these children. And as we know, and I just mentioned as well, that Shantanu had another son called Bhishma from his wife Ganga, who was also a great warrior, and he was very powerful. And then through the second wife Satyavati, these two sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, were also very, very powerful princes. So Shantanu was very happy and delighted to see his three sons with all the auspicious qualities, and he thought that these three sons were undefeatable. They cannot be defeated by anybody. And at times it came to his mind that even the devas or the gods could not defeat his three sons. And then after some time, Shantanu died. King Shantanu died, and he left for the heavenly abode. And Bhishma, who was the first son through the first wife, he performed the funeral and the rituals after his death. And as per his promise to King Shantanu, he did not accept the kingdom himself, but he placed the elder son through Shantanu's second wife, whose name was Chitrangada, on the throne. and he just stayed, and he was started to be called as Deva Vrata, like as truthful as a deva, as truthful as a god, because of his promise to his dad that he will not accept the kingdom himself and will make sure that he does not even marry, and he will make sure that the sons of his father's second wife Satyavati would be inheriting the kingdom. So he placed the elder son of Satyavati and his father Shantanu, Chitrangada, on the throne. And Chitrangada, as I already mentioned, that he was a very great hero, very powerful person, and because of his power of his arms, he became very famous. As a matter of fact, he had a great powerful army as well. So one day, Chitrangada, or King Chitrangada, because he was already on the throne that time, he went on a hunting expedition with his army, and he was in quest of deer and all kinds of animals for his hunting expedition. And then while he was there was a Gandharva, and Gandharvas are heavenly creatures, divine beings, as a matter of fact. A Gandharva, also by the name of Chitrangada, saw him in the forest. And so here was King Chitrangada, who was the son of Shantanu and Satyavati, and here another Chitrangada, who was a Gandharva, a divine being, was also there in the forest, and he saw the king. And when he saw the king, he came down from his chariot and he challenged the king to a battle with him. And of course, as we all know, that King Chitrangada, Satyavati's and Shantanu's son, was very powerful, and he accepted that challenge, and a fierce battle continued for 3 years, and between the two powerful heroes. And after 3 years, the Gandharva, the divine Chitrangada, or the Gandharva Chitrangada, killed King Chitrangada in the battle. And of course, he left for his heavenly abode as well. So when Bhishma heard this news, he was very sad, very upset, but there was nothing he could do about it. And he told Chitrangada, or King Chitrangada's mother Satyavati, that this is what has happened. And Satyavati was very upset after losing her eldest son. However, they decided to put or install the second son, whose name was Vichitravirya, on the throne. And after seeing the younger son on the throne and become king, she was kind of, a little consoled. And she was consoled to the extent that, yes, at least, the younger son has become the king. And when Vichitravirya became youthful, a little older, Bhishma, and I've already explained to you who Bhishma was. Bhishma was the son of Shantanu from his first marriage to Ganga. When he saw that Vichitravirya has attained his youth, he began to think of his marriage. And at that time, the king of Kashi, and Kashi is the present day Varanasi in India, he had assembled a Swayamvara. And Swayamvara is a ceremony where a bride selects the bridegroom and puts a garland, whoever she chooses, to be her bridegroom. So this ceremony was made or planned by King of Kashi, and he had 3 daughters. So he was wanting to have his 3 daughters select 3 bridegrooms for these 3 daughters. And so he invited thousands of kings from all over to visit that ceremony which is called Swamvara, for the marriage of his three daughters, so that his three daughters could choose their bridegrooms. And when all these kings came and appeared in Kashi before the king of Kashi and attended the ceremony, and they were all ready for the three princesses to come out, and these three princesses were supposed to choose their bridegrooms from the assembly of the kings who had gathered for the Swamvara ceremony. And as soon as the ceremony was about to start, Bhishma attacked that ceremony. And why did he attack? Because the younger son of Satyavati, Vichitravirya, was not invited on the ceremony. So he was very upset that his brother was not invited, his stepbrother, as you could say, whose name was Vichitravirya, was not invited for the ceremony. So he was very, very upset, and in that anger he mounted on his chariot, and since he was so powerful, he attacked the infantry and the cavalry of all the kings who had assembled there for the ceremony in Kashi, and defeated all the kings single-handedly, and by force carried away the three daughters of the king of Kashi and took them to his capital, Hastinapur. So this was kind of a kidnap, and this was a great kidnap which was done of these three daughters by the great Bhishma, the elder son or the eldest son of King Shantanu, who was very upset that his stepbrother Vichitravirya was not invited for the Swamvara ceremony. And these three daughters were three sisters, and as soon as he took these three daughters, and these daughters, by the way, they were called Amba, Ambika and Ambalika. These were the three names of these three sisters, these three princesses who were the daughters of King of Kashi. He took these daughters, he kidnapped these three daughters after defeating all the kings, and he took them to his capital, Hastinapur, and he informed Satyavati of what had happened. So this was a little story from the Puranas, coming directly from the Puranas, about the great kidnap which was done by the great hero Bhishma. And of course there will be a continuation of that, and what happens after the great kidnap and what are the consequences. We'll discuss that in our forthcoming videos. But hopefully you did enjoy this little story about the great kidnap by Bhishma, the great hero. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with the continuation of stories from the Puranas in my forthcoming videos very soon. Goodbye.